Um, Hello, Virgo. Okay, someone's been saying your name more than you realize. Hit subscribe because this energy is active right now. There's someone speaking about you in conversations you're not part of. And the frequency with which your name comes up in their discussions with others reveals how much mental and emotional space you're occupying, even during your absence from their daily life. Not occasional mention when directly relevant, not passing reference when someone asks about you specifically. Regular unprompted inclusion of you in their conversations, bringing you up when connection to current topic is tangential at best, finding ways to make discussions circle back to you even when you're not the obvious subject, using you as reference point or comparison or example in ways that reveal you're central to their thinking, even when they're trying to talk about something else entirely. The people around them have likely noticed this pattern, have probably recognized that you come up more than would be expected if you were just casual past connection or distant memory. And the missing, that's the emotional driver behind the talking. They mention you because thinking about you creates need to speak about you, because holding all the thoughts and feelings about you internally becomes overwhelming, and speaking provides release, because talking about you keeps you present in their life even though you're physically absent from it, because their friends and family hearing about you creates witnesses to the relationship or connection that otherwise only exists in their private experience now. In the specific behavior of talking about someone excessively to others, you're witnessing attachment that hasn't resolved despite distance or time or whatever circumstances created the separation. People don't talk constantly about people who don't matter to them, don't bring up repeatedly people they've successfully moved on from, don't reference habitually people who've become truly past tense in their emotional landscape. The ongoing talking is evidence of ongoing significance, of unresolved feelings, of continued presence in their consciousness that manifests as presence in their conversations. Let me illuminate what patterns might be active in someone who can't stop talking about you. In the psychology of speaking about someone persistently to others, several motivations create this behavior. Sometimes it's processing mechanism. They're trying to make sense of what happened between you, trying to understand their own feelings, trying to get outside perspective on the situation. They're too close to see clearly. They talk about you because talking helps them process. Because hearing themselves speak about you reveals things they couldn't access through internal contemplation alone. Because others' responses and questions help them understand what they're experiencing. Your situation might involve someone using their social circle exactly this way, having repeated conversations about you with different people, asking advice about whether they should reach out or let you go, seeking validation for their feelings, or challenging of those feelings, processing through verbal expression what they can't process adequately through silent reflection. Their friends have probably heard extensive details about you, about what you meant to them, about what happened, about what they wish had happened differently, about whether there's any possibility of reconnection. Notice if mutual friends mention that specific person has been asking about you. If people in your shared circles seem to know more about your past connection than they should know. If that person wasn't talking, if you hear through grapevine that someone is still talking about you, or can't seem to get over you, or keeps bringing you up, These reports are evidence that the talking is happening at volume and frequency noticeable to others, that it's not just occasional mention but persistent pattern. Some people talk about you because they're keeping you alive in their narrative. They're maintaining the connection through storytelling, even though actual connection is severed or distant. They tell stories about you, about experiences you shared, about things you said or did, about ways you affected them. The storytelling serves to preserve what existed, to honor what mattered, to ensure that people in their current life understand that you were significant even if you're not present anymore. You might be subject of exactly this kind of memorial talking, someone ensuring their people understand you're an important part of their history, someone wanting witnesses to relationship or connection that shaped them, even though it's not active relationship now. This isn't necessarily about wanting you back, though it might include that. It's often about refusing to pretend something meaningful was meaningless, about honoring impact you had by speaking that impact rather than silencing it. Others talk about you because they're building case for reconnection. They're telling people they miss you. They're expressing regret about how things ended. They're wondering aloud if you ever think about them. They're testing whether their people think reaching out would be welcome or would be mistake. The talking is preparation for action, is consensus building, is seeking permission or encouragement or blessing to do what they're already wanting to do, which is contact you. Ah, they talk about you to others before they talk to you directly, using their social circle as sounding board for feelings they haven't yet expressed to actual person those feelings concern. This reflection invites you to consider if you discovered someone was talking about you constantly to others. Would that feel flattering or concerning? Let me clarify what they miss their baby reveals about how they experience you and the loss. Baby language indicates affection and tenderness, indicates they experience you as precious to them, as someone they cared for or wanted to care for, as someone whose absence creates specific kind of ache that parental or nurturing language captures better than neutral language would. This doesn't necessarily mean actual parental dynamic. It means they held you as valuable, as someone they wanted to protect or cherish or keep close. And losing that position in your life or losing you from their life creates grief similar to missing someone you loved deeply. In the emotional weight of missing someone this intensely, the talking serves as temporary salve for pain the missing creates. They can't have you, they can't be with you, they can't interact with you, so they talk about you as substitute for actual contact, as way of keeping you present even in absence, as method of processing longing that has nowhere else to go. The talking doesn't resolve the missing, but it provides outlet for feelings that would otherwise have no expression. It's essential you understand that someone talking about you and missing you doesn't obligate you to do anything about their missing or their talking. Their feelings are theirs to manage. Their longing is theirs to process. Their decision to talk about you to others is their choice that doesn't create your responsibility. You can acknowledge they're experiencing these feelings without feeling pressured to alleviate their discomfort through your availability or renewed contact. Some people hearing that someone misses them feel immediate pull toward that person, feel validation that they mattered, feel tempted to reach out or respond if the person reaches out, feel their own feelings reigniting in response to knowing they're missed. If that's you, If knowing you're being talked about and missed creates desire to reconnect, examine whether that desire is about actually wanting the person or about wanting to be wanted, about genuine interest in rebuilding or about ego satisfaction of being desired. You might need to distinguish between missing them versus enjoying being missed, between wanting them back versus wanting validation that you mattered enough to be mourned, between genuine readiness to reconnect versus reactive response to their expressed longing. Reconnecting because someone misses you rather than because you genuinely want them and believe reconnection would serve you often leads to situations that don't satisfy anyone. Others feel nothing about being missed. They've moved on sufficiently that someone else's feelings about them don't create emotional response. They're neither pleased nor displeased, neither tempted to return, nor angry about the longing, just neutral about information that someone, somewhere, is experiencing feelings about past connection. This emotional distance often indicates healthy healing, having processed the relationship or connection sufficiently to release energetic charge around it. This reflection invites you to consider: does knowing someone is talking about you and missing you create any desire to respond, or are you genuinely unaffected? Let me address what their talking might lead to and what you should anticipate. Sometimes persistent talking about someone to others serves as pressure release that prevents direct contact. They process through their social circle so they don't have to process with you. They express to safe audiences so they don't risk expressing to person who might reject or not reciprocate. The talking is substitute for action, is alternative to reaching out, is way of managing feelings without actually doing anything about those feelings with the person they concern. In this version of events, you might never hear from them directly despite all the talking they're doing about you with others. They miss you in conversations with their friends, but they don't translate that missing into message to you. They process their feelings extensively in safe spaces, but they don't take risk of making those feelings known to you. The talking stays contained in their circle, never breaks through into actual contact with you. It's important you recognize this as possible outcome so you're not waiting for contact that might never arrive, despite evidence that you're very much on their mind. Talking about someone and talking to someone require different levels of courage, carry different risks, create different possibilities for hurt. They might be comfortable with former while remaining paralyzed about latter. Other times, persistent talking is prelude to reaching out. They're building toward contact through the talking. They're processing their way to readiness through repeated conversation with others. They're gathering courage and clarity and consensus that eventually tips them from talking about you to actually talking to you. The extensive discussion with others is preparation phase, is runway leading to takeoff, is process through which they move from wanting to contact you to actually contacting you. You might be in exactly this scenario where contact is coming, where all the talking they're doing is building momentum toward message or call that will arrive sooner than you expect. They've been working themselves up to it through the conversations with others, each discussion moving them slightly closer to the bravery required to actually reach out to you directly. Each encouragement from friend or family member making the prospect of contact feel more possible and less terrifying. Still others might enlist someone else to make contact on their behalf, to test whether you'd be receptive, to ask if you ever mention them, to suggest that mutual friend think you two should reconnect. This indirect approach protects them from direct rejection while still attempting to create pathway back to you, while still trying to determine if their desire for reconnection might be mutual before they risk making it explicit. This reflection invites you to consider, if they reached out after all this talking and missing, would you want to engage, or would you prefer they kept their distance? Let me speak to what you should do with awareness that someone is talking about you extensively. First, decide how you feel about it independent of how you think you should feel. Are you flattered that you occupy their thoughts? Annoyed that they can't seem to move on? Concerned that they're not respecting your boundaries by processing privately neutral because their internal experience and social conversations don't affect you? Your authentic feeling matters more than appropriate feeling. Your truth about their behavior is more important than performance of mature response. In the self-honesty this situation requires, you might discover you like being talked about and missed, that it feels validating, that it confirms you mattered and still matter to someone. Or you might discover you wish they'd be quiet about you, that you've moved on and their persistent talking feels like refusal to respect that movement, that you want to be released from their narrative, not kept alive in it. Or you might discover you genuinely don't care either way, that what they say to others about you simply doesn't register as relevant to your current life or emotional state. It's critical you honor whatever you actually feel rather than judging yourself for feeling it. You're allowed to like being missed, allowed to be annoyed by it, allowed to be indifferent about it. None of these responses is wrong. All are valid reactions to information about someone else's behavior and feelings regarding you. Your feelings don't have to make sense to anyone else, they just have to be true for you. Second, consider whether you want to do anything about this information or whether you're content to let it remain as information you note but don't act on. If you want them in your life and their talking suggests they want you in theirs, maybe this is opportunity to reach out, to create opening, to rebuild connection that might serve both of you. If you don't want them or aren't sure, maybe this is just interesting data that doesn't require response, doesn't demand action, doesn't create obligation. Some situations warrant reaching out if you're genuinely interested in reconnection, if you've been wanting to contact them but weren't sure if they'd be receptive. Their persistent talking about you might be evidence that contact would be welcome, but reach out because you want to, because you believe reconnection would serve you, not because you feel bad that they miss you or because you think you should respond to their longing. Others warrant maintaining your current boundaries regardless of their talking or missing. You're not interested in reconnecting, you're moved on, you're happy with current distance, or you know that re-engaging wouldn't serve your growth or healing. In these cases, their talking is their business, their missing is theirs to manage, and your work is simply continuing on your path without being derailed by knowledge of their feelings. This reflection invites you to consider, does this information change anything about what you want or what you plan to do? Someone has been talking about you to everyone, your topic of frequent conversation in their social circle. Your name comes up regularly in their discussions with others. They reference you often enough that people around them have noticed the pattern. They miss their baby. They're experiencing your absence as loss. They're carrying longing that expresses itself through the talking. They're processing feelings that haven't resolved despite time or distance. And your work is clarity about how this information affects you, if at all. Honesty about whether you want connection with someone who clearly still wants connection with you, at least on emotional level. Decisiveness about whether their feelings create opportunity you want to explore, or whether they're experiencing something you don't reciprocate and don't plan to reciprocate. Their talking and missing is data, important data, potentially, but it's just data until you decide what to do with it. May you honor your authentic response to their longing. May you choose based on what serves you, not what alleviates their missing. May you trust your clarity about whether reconnection serves your path. May you be honest about reciprocation or lack thereof. They talk about you constantly. They miss you genuinely. Your response is entirely yours to determine. No obligation exists beyond what you choose to create. Remember this. Being missed doesn't mean you should make yourself available. Being talked about doesn't mean you need to reappear. Someone's longing doesn't create your responsibility. If you want them and they want you, beautiful, explore that carefully and intentionally. If you don't want them, regardless of their wanting you, that's equally valid, equally deserving of respect. The talking reveals their internal state, but your internal state is what determines your choice, and your choice is what matters for your life. They're talking and missing. You're choosing and living. Both are valid. Choose what genuinely serves you.